G'day everyone, another outdoor video about gaming. Also, a big thank you to everyone who's been watching the videos. I really appreciate it. It's been amazing. I appreciate the support. That's really sweet of you. I really like doing these videos because I'm sharing experiences, my thoughts and views and opinions about gaming from back then to now, and also just any current news or just some particular things that I want to just get off my chest about gaming. And it seems to be working, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That being said, today's topic I wanted to talk about was today's video games harder than the ones that we used to play in the 80s and 90s. I want to do a comparison. I'm sure everyone's got their own point of view and opinions about this. This is just my opinion, so you can take it or leave it. That's fine, not a problem at all. So, growing up in the 80s and 90s gaming compared to now, I feel that back then that certain games were harder due to the fact that there was hardly any save points in a lot of games. And also the games that I used to play were arcade based at the local tucker shop. You play like the console, the arcade machines. So if you died, you don't have a certain amount of lives. And maybe you ran out of money and you had to start all the way back again. And some games were really brutal, like Ghosts and Goblins. You could really get owned in that game. And then you'd have to replay it to get a different ending. That was a very brutal game. So was Double Dragon. That was a very unforgiving game. And I remember the jumping was a bit naffed. So if you didn't jump correctly, you'd end up in the water and drown instantly and stuff like that. That's just a couple of games that I noticed that were really hard. And there was also another game I played on the Commodore 64 called Project Firestar. If anyone remembers that one, please comment and let me know. This was my first ever horror game that I played on the Commodore 64, and that was really brutal. You'd go in a room, and if there was a creature in there, you were instantly dead, and you had to start pretty much all over again. It was really hard and brutal and unforgiving. But I feel that games of today, like I'm on consoles mainly, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, where I can just pause a game and then start it, and then when I go back to the game, it'll be at the exact same spot where I left off. I don't even have to worry about saving anymore. But I feel like a lot of games out there, and I'm not saying all games, trust me, I know those Dark Souls games are brutal, and that's why I don't play them, because I just don't have the patience for it, and they're just not really my type of gameplay. I will eventually probably attempt to play them, or Elden Ring. I know those games are brutal. Those games are really hard. And then there's some other types of games that are very hard and difficult. But I also feel that in this day and age, where there is difficult games and where there's hard games, there's a way of working around it. There's cheat codes, there's walkthroughs, tutorial guides on YouTube. You can just look online and you'll find a tutorial guide on how to get through a major boss and stuff like that on a game. And there's also checkpoints and save points. There's a lot of this sort of stuff in a lot of games today, especially if you look at your FPS shooters. There's always save points in so like open world games where there's tons of places where you can just save and all respawn as well. But when I was growing up, we didn't have the access to the internet, not just yet. We're on the cusp of the internet world. So in the 80s, when you died over and over and over again, you had to basically work it out yourself of how to get past this boss or how to get past this level. There was no internet. There was magazines with tutorials, and you'd have to wait maybe a month or two to maybe get a tutorial for a walkthrough of a game. And not all games got walkthroughs. You'd have to look. And there was a few numbers you can call online, and there'll be people talking to you to get through it. But the most amazing thing was talking to your friends on how to get past a certain level. You'd have a friend who maybe had the same game, or maybe you lent that game to a friend and they got past a bit because, hey, yeah, you can borrow this game because this game's doing my head and I can't get past a certain level or a certain boss. And then they bring it back and they say, oh, yeah, I completed it. And then you go, how did you complete it? And they say, oh, yeah, I had to do this and do that. And then you go through. And then also you take turnsies. I remember so many times when I'll be playing a video game with friends, either at their place or on my place, and we'd get to a really difficult part of a game and we'd take turns. You keep playing and you get stressed because you're not clear-headed because you got stuck on a bit, and you say, oh, you take over and sure if you, and they'd get through it and then you take over. And then you say, all right, I'll play the rest, sort of thing. But I do remember those times. And also when you're at the arcade shop playing video games at the arcade place, and you put your money up there and say, all right, I only got 20 cents or $1 to get through this whole game today. And you get to that last bit. I used to play R-Type in 1942 and all these shooter games where you had a vehicle and you have the big bad bosses would come down and there'll be an absolute pixel, all these pixel bullets coming through, and you're trying to avoid them and dodge them and weave, and you'd die 10 times. And you keep pumping money into that machine over and over again. It was so difficult. Those games, so brutal. Contra as well. Contra was a really brutal game. But you kept replaying it and you get further ahead. You get to the next level, and there's a level you wouldn't even know what you're doing. But you die and you get there again, you get there again. And there's a game that I used to love playing called Black Tiger. And that was this side-scrolling hack and slash sort of game. Really loved that. And that was a really brutal game too. But as I was saying, 80s and 90s games were obviously definitely different. And it was all about getting familiar with the pattern of the game. And they were more simplistic, but they were also really brutal and unforgiving if you didn't get it right the first time. Whereas I feel that nowadays, games now have lots more options. And also the gamer, the person themselves now have tons more access to things like walkthroughs, tutorials, online help, and all this sort of stuff with games. And also a lot of games nowadays have, like I said, a lot more checkpoints, a lot more save points, and all that sort of stuff. But I know that there's games out there today that are really brutal and really hard as well. I just don't think there's as many unforgiving games as there were back when I was growing up, if that makes sense. And like I said, everyone's going to have a different amount of opinion on this sort of stuff, and I get that, and that's fine. I'd love to hear your comments about that. What games did you play growing up that were really brutal and really hard? Or even games today that you've played today that you find really brutal and hard? And like I said, I've attempted to play Dark Souls. I just can't get into it. It's so hard for me. I don't think I just got that right mindset anymore to play those sort of games. But I do play a lot of open world FPS shooters, co-op type based games now, but I'm playing more single player based games. And now I'm just talking about games that are more of a single player based experience. I'm not talking about multiplayer because that's not something that was really common when I was growing up. But I know that with multiplayer, that's completely different because online playing is about more skill based, honing in your skills to play against other players. That's you against another player on the same type of game, if that makes sense. And I might do a video about multiplayer if you guys are interested. But I just want to know, do you agree with this? Do you feel like games from when we were growing up were harder compared to today's games? Or do you think that I'm talking a lot of bollocks? I'd just love to hear your thoughts on this. But anyway, I really do appreciate you guys watching these videos. It means the world to me. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down. That's fine as well. And keep watching and keep on gaming. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.